Hello, my name is Algie Mosley, and I'm one of the landlord liaisons here at Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency. I'd like to personally thank each of you for the job you do daily to positively affect the lives of our Sacramento families. Today I will be discussing payment standards, rent increases, rent study, rent comparable, and affordablehousing.com. The Housing Choice Voucher Program, known as HCV, has limits on how much subsidy can be paid for a rental unit determined by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, otherwise known as HUD. HUD payment standards are used to calculate the maximum monthly amount of rent subsidy a family can receive. This includes both the contract rent amount and the utility allowance. Therefore, the answer to the question, what are payment standards? It's simply the maximum monthly amount of assistance a family can receive that includes both the contract rent and utility allowance. The payment standards and the family's income together are used to determine how much the tenant pays and how much subsidy the family qualifies for. Payment standards are updated annually and based on fair market rent published by HUD, or as I mentioned earlier, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Let's look at a recent payment standards dated December 1st, 2023. Search for the zip code of the lower of the voucher size or the unit size to find the maximum payment standard. Let's look at zip code 95610, which is Citrus Heights. You'll see the payment standards for the one-bedroom is $1,837, and the payment standard for a five-bedroom is $4,211. The payment standards, along with affordability calculator and more information about how these amounts are determined, can be found on our website, which is www.shra.org. Please keep in mind that the payment standards are not the maximum rent that can be charged by landlords. The contract rent amount must be determined reasonable with the rent study. Rent increases are conducted at least 12 months from the date of the lease start date or the last rent and increase notice. You must notify SHRA and the tenant in writing. If the increase is less than 10%, it requires a 60-day notice. If the rent increase is more than 10%, it requires a 90-day notice. All rent increases are effective on the first day of each month. There are a few requirements needed to be on your rent increase notice. The date rent increase notice was issued in writing to the tenant and SHRA, the tenant's name and address, the new rent amount, and the effective date for the rent change. Please keep in mind that every unit must pass HUD quality standards. And there are some automatic denials to keep in mind to avoid delays in processing. Current failed inspection status, the first year of the lease or the second rent increase within a 12-month period, and incorrect notice given, whether it was 60-day or a 90-day notice. The first step in requesting rent increase is to serve the tenant with the 60 or 90-day written notice. Send a copy to SHRA, Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency, via fax, mail, or Dropbox, located at 630 I Street or downtown Sacramento. You can also create a rent increase in the landlord portal. After the request is processed, both the owner and the tenant will be mailed a notice of approval or denial. If approved, a subsidy adjustment notice will be mailed to both the landlord and the tenant. The subsidy adjustment notice is known as the SAN report, contains information such as the current and the new housing assistance payment amounts, the tenant portion of rent, and utility reimbursements amounts. Let's look at the rent increase process. Let's say the payment standard for a 3-bedroom apartment in the zip code 95820 is $2,783. The landlord requests a contract rent of $2,600. SHRA runs a rent comparability study, and the highest approvable rent amount is $2,475. SHRA will communicate with the landlord the amount of $2,475 to approve the contract rent amount. Rent studies are completed to ensure HUD funds do not cause rents to artificially increase in the same neighborhood. There are basically two times when rent studies are conducted: at the time of the initial move-in, when the request for tenancy approval, or otherwise known as the RIFT, is completed, and at the time when a rent increase is requested. Please keep in mind that landlords cannot cancel submitted requests to avoid lowering of the contract rent. Although rent decreases are rare, we have seen in some areas like Natomas where rents are decreasing. This is one of the reasons why it's important to complete your own rent study prior to submitting the rent increase. If the rent study shows comparable rent and lower than the requested, landlord can submit 3 samples of their own if they meet these 4 requirements. The unit is not subsidized by any governmental agency or organization, must have the same number of bedrooms and located within the same area. Only one comparable unit can be owned by the same owner. All data is verifiable through a source other than the same person representing the rental. And the form is located on our website, again, which is www.shra.org. When you're ready to advertise your unit, we ask landlords to list their property on affordablehousing.com. Affordablehousing.com is the #1 affordable housing platform that is trusted by many governmental partners and millions of renters nationwide. This is where we refer program participants to use when they are looking for a place to rent. But why list with affordablehousing.com? This is an awesome free service to landlords to advertise their units. Simply create an account, list, select, and relax. That's right. List your property for free and get tons of leads. Select the best tenant using the renter scores and relax with a waiting list to back up renters. Landlords can now join in to speak with our landlord liaisons, myself and April, for assistance on any issues or questions they may have as a housing provider working with SHRA. You can join us on Tuesdays from 8:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m., or you can join us on Thursdays from 1 o'clock p.m. to 3 o'clock p.m. The links to the virtual landlord office hours can be found on our website, www.shra, under Landlord Resources. My coworker, April Overly, and myself, Algie Mosley, are here to assist you with the Housing Choice Voucher Program. You can contact us via phone, which is 916-440-8552, or email us at landlordoutreach@shra.org. Again, my name is Algie Mosley, Landlord Liaison, and we look forward to servicing